Hey, this is Deepesh. Let's talk about how you can boss the auction with manual bid. So when it comes to understanding the auction, hopefully by now you will have seen this picture which I've taken from the Facebook website around the advertiser bid, estimated action rates and user value. This is the basic construct of the auction. So your goal is to play with this and understand it and manipulate this to your advantage. And it's all about great marketing. This whole course is all about great marketing, and that is focusing from the endpoint backwards. So user value is the number one goal for you as a marketer, and then figuring out how you can reach them most efficiently. So the trick is then to match their value and then your goals. So if you've been through the introductory video, you'll understand this already, but let me now take you through how manual bid plays a part there. So this diagram here is a simple one which illustrates on the left-hand side the bid amount from 0 to an arbitrary number, because it really depends on different auctions that are kind of going on. But let's just say 0 to 100 for the sake of putting some kind of value. Not $100, it could be 100 cents, it could be 1 cent, $1, etc. But just on the left-hand side, we've got the bid amount. On the right-hand side down here, we've got the user value. So the user value is the value of that user to you. So let's just relate that to the chance of converting based on your objective. So the closer the user value is to 0, the lower the chance they are your ideal customer, and the higher they are on the x-axis, the better chance they are of being your ideal customer. And so the circle here represents your target audience that you've defined in your ad set. The line going straight through there will define how much you need to bid for each of those people in your audience. So if you're bidding low, you'll reach people, but maybe not as high a value. So this is just to get you to understand how I view the auction and kind of how bidding and user value plays a part as well. Now, when it comes to auto bid, Facebook will be trying to get you the lowest cost, but will be playing anywhere across this line if it believes it can get you conversions at good value. Now let's have a look at different audiences that are playing a part with those different user values and bids. And so each of these lines here, the circles, represent different audiences. And you can also see, as I've referenced here, where the low CPMs and the high CPMs stand as well. So you could have a niche audience with a really, really high CPM, and you look at that and you think, it's too expensive. I've seen auctions where I'm seeing at the ad set level $15, $20 CPM, but because the conversion rate is so good, it means that my performance is good as well, especially if you can generate a high click-through rate from that high CPM. It will mean that your cost per click is lower as well. So high CPM doesn't mean it's, not a good audience. It just means that the audiences are a bit more expensive, and if you're targeting your creative is on point and you can get a high click-through rate and you can convert, then you'll end up with a far better result as well. So you pay on CPM or CPC, but the better your CTR, your click-through rate, and your conversion rate, the lower your cost per click. So if you have been through the data and insights part of the training, where I talk about CPA optimization, there's only two metrics, two numbers that influence cost per acquisition, whether that's leads or sales or installs, whatever acquisition looks like. Your cost per click and your conversion rate are the two things that make up the construct of your cost per acquisition. And then you break those down and you think, okay, what influences my cost per click? And you've got a whole bunch of things here. What influences my conversion rate? You've got a whole bunch of things here. And you can do your calculations to figure out what your CPA should be. Now, when it comes to the auction, you've got full control over CPC and conversion rate. The better the quality of the user, the higher the conversion rate potentially, if your sales funnel is as good as it can be. And the auction cost and the click-through rate makes up your cost per click. So you can also manipulate your cost per click to give you a better value for cost per acquisition as well. Now, when it comes to manual bid, I absolutely recommend that you don't use manual bid until your click-through rate and your conversion rate are in a good place. Now, the reason I say that is when you're running auto bid on an ad set and you've got some creatives, you've been through graduation framework, you're now starting to push more spend into your winning ad sets and your creatives. Manual bid will allow you to play around with a framework which is fairly loose around the bidding values, but it'll give you a good position of where your audience sits with that performance as well. If you jump straight into manual bid, you might end up in situations where you're not able to bid the right amount. So this graph illustrates how auto bid would work across the whole range of costs and values. Some bids it will win, some bids it will go higher, lower, in between. But Facebook's trying to determine how it can best optimize your spend based on your goals. Now, let's say you go straight in with the lowest cap cost. So you want to, let's say your CPA target is $30 and you say, right, I want to go in at my lowest cost to be capped at $30. It means that if there's a chance of a conversion happening here, and Facebook predicts that the conversion will cost more than $30, it just won't bid. The key thing I want you to understand is, even if the bid would have cost you $35 here, if the quality of the user was that much better and they converted a lot higher, your CPA would still be profitable. So be careful when you're using the lowest cost cap bid, because that's what comes out of that as well. When you're using target cost capped, what you're telling Facebook here is to average out my CPA. So previously we're saying don't bid higher than my CPA target. Here we're saying just average it out. So the way I use this is, let's say for example, my CPA target is $30, and I've done some testing where I found that the $90 I've gone tested 30, 40, 50, maybe up to $90, and my $90 is the best performer on a cap. Then I might test different boundaries on my target cost at $80, $70, where I want an average bid at that level, and Facebook will try and bring my CPA within that as well. So quite often, what Facebook will tell you to do is your target CPA should be the actual CPA you're after. So if you're after $30 CPA, set that as your target cost. Sometimes it'll be higher, sometimes it'll be lower. However, in practice, because of the way the auction works, and because sometimes you will get higher conversion rates from better quality customers or users on Facebook, having a slightly higher target cost can also be beneficial. So it may be that if your CPA target is 30, a $45 or even a $50 target cost will be more profitable for you if your conversion rate and your click-through rate are doing really, really well. And so that's why I always recommend getting that working effectively on auto before you start switching to manual. So how do you make manual bid work for you? Lowest bid should only be used for testing or when growth scaling is not the biggest factor. So going back to the lowest bid model, if you want to maximize profitability and you want to tell Facebook, I don't want to pay more than $30 per CPA on average, then set the cap, and Facebook will try and get you as many conversions as possible $30 and below. And that's good if profitability is your biggest driver and increasing spend isn't that important to you. It will mean that you may lose out on some auctions, some days you'll get under delivery, but on average you should be hitting your CPA target. However, use target cost to maintain higher spends when scaling, or spend above 4 figures in an ad set in a given day as well. So what that allows you to do is, let's say you've got a $30 target, you've worked out that $45 target CPA, target cost is your best kind of level. As you start to increase your spends, let's say from $100 to $500 to $1,000 a day, Facebook will maintain the average, but it may go for more expensive auctions, which could convert better and give you more reach as well. So the lowest bid will most likely limit your reach. The target cost will give you more scope to increase your reach, but it all depends on getting the right level for your bid. So what should the bid be? What I like to do when I'm testing is when I have my CPA and I've made it work on auto, is to then test manual on 1, 2, and 3 times the CPA on a lowest cost capped. So going into an example, let's say that my target CPA is $10 and Facebook's been doing its thing on auto. Giving you an example of how that's worked in practice, this particular example, which you may have seen before, is one client which had a target of $30 CPA, and I've tested a few different boundaries here, so 30, 50, 75, and 90, so it isn't prescripted that it has to be 1, 2, 3 times. You can test within that as well. But I've gone up to 3 times the bid value, and actually it was that value which performed best for this particular account. And we managed to scale it a lot faster and a lot more aggressively from the original kind of roughly $280 a day up to $1,500 a day, because the max bid for this one worked best. And actually I tested average as well, but it just didn't perform as well. And so what I would be doing here is pushing the max bid for as long as I can, and then finding the average level, so that it would give me a lot more sustained value out of it as well. So do consider, when you are doing your CPA bidding, to test different boundaries out when you are looking to scale up. There are tools out there in the marketplace that basically do this automatically for you. And so it will take your ad set, it will test different CPA levels, and you could split it into, taking this for example, I've chosen 30, 50, 75, 90. You could do 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 all the way up. I wanted to test boundaries that were close and kind of in between all the way up to 90. You could even go above that as well, just to find the sweet spot, testing with kind of max or the lowest cost bid first, and then finding an average bid that will work for you as well, and then seeing how you can scale out through that as well. So manual bid is all about making sure your creatives, your audience, your click-through rate, your conversion rates are good before you start, and then starting to test the 2 different strategies and the different values of your manual bids, and to see what works, and then to go through V-scaling that bid strategy that's working best for you up as well. You may notice here I've got duplicates of the same ad set, so this is using the H-scaling strategy to test my manual bid, and that's the way I would do that. The other way you can test your bid strategies is to use Facebook's split test rule, campaign, so you would set up a new campaign, put it down as a split test. You can test auto versus manual, for example, but if you want to do it far quicker in your existing website conversion campaign, what I do, especially if the audience is big, is duplicate the ad sets out and then test my different bid levels.